To the high school preview show presented by Gold Athletics. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partners, Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Cold. The cold is coming.
You look cold, brother. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
You look,
man.
dude. I feel you, man. I feel you. I hate this crap. I'm already over it, and it's not even mid-November. Amaral, how
Right.
are you? Are you as cold as me and Mukala?
I'm doing great. I don't mind the cold, so I'm doing
Oh,
fine.
yeah, no. I think for me, the older I get, anything under 80 degrees is cold. I can tolerate the 70s, but you get me under 65, and I'm like, get me the hell out of here. So
Yeah.
I'm good. But gentlemen, it's always great to talk football with you guys. It's an exciting time of the year. And before we start the conversation, we are brought to you by Gold Athletics. Winter Coaches, your season is a couple weeks away. If you need that last-minute fundraiser to help raise money for your program, Matt Ross and his team at Gold Athletics can help you. Visit goldathletics.com today for more information on how you can set up a fundraiser that works for your community, your program, and your school. Again, visit goldathletics.com today, and you can talk to one of Matt Ross's team members, and they will find the right fundraiser for you. Gold Athletics is a proven fundraising company that gets you the money. If you want to make that money today, visit goldathletics.com now. All right, gentlemen, of course, we're going to start in Massachusetts. The MIAA playoffs are in full swing. We are now into week 2 of the MIAA playoffs, and we've got some great matchups. This is when business starts to pick up, right? We've got some great matchups on tap, and we're going to start with Division 1 as always, and we're going to go through each matchup. So we are going to preview each matchup in all 8 divisions, and then we're also going to talk about some of the other top games in the region, as well as I should say, the Knepsack Bowl. So we've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. First matchup is a dream quarterback matchup here. You've got Leominster visiting St. John's Prep. Quarterback matchup of Osiris Lopez versus Christopher Vargas. This is going to be a fun game. And while Prep's defense has been really good all year, this Leominster offense can be challenging. They can make big plays. They can score points. Dare I say, could this end up being a shootout?
I don't think so, honestly. I think that Prep defense is too good. They're too sound. They have plenty of playmakers. They're well coached. So I think they're going to be able to keep Leominster in check. There's just St. John's Prep. There's just so much depth. Again, they're super well coached on both sides of the ball. Vargas might be a little bit banged up. Left that game against Framingham in the first round. He exited early, but they have Maxwell Parent, Jordan Toribio that they can rely on. That offensive line, they're young, but they're a lot better than I think people expected going into the season. So St. John's Prep's going to handle business in this one.
Yeah, this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be one of those games where they, with Vargas leaving the game early last week. I think this is one of those games where we're gonna see a heavy dose of Parent and Toribio in the offensive line. I think one thing Coach St. Pierre does around this time of the year is establish the physicality that he likes with his team. And this St. John's Prep team, they've faced some really good offenses already this season. They faced CM. CM was scoring, but then they made adjustments and they slowed them down in the second half. They faced Springfield Central. They got some key stops when they needed to in that game. So they've already played some really good quarterback. I mean, Caden Smith in Central Catholic, they faced off against them. So this Leominster offense is going to be a unique offense with another really talented quarterback. But they've seen really talented quarterbacks three or four times already this season, and I think they'll be ready for it. I just think Coach St. Pierre and those guys this time of the year, I think that running game is going to be the key to this. Keep those guys on the sideline, keep Lopez and that offense on the sidelines, control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, and that's going to be the key to victory in this one. Even if Vargas is banged up, I still think this Eagles team is just too talented all around.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. This time of year, if you can run the football and reestablish your physicality and control the line of scrimmage, you're going to be in pretty good shape. I think St. John's Prep is one of those programs that could set up that running game and lean on it, and it could potentially carry them to a state title game. Their physicality is next level, and I agree with you, Mukala, on that. It could be the difference in this one. Next up, we have Central Catholic. It's a 4-5 matchup. The first game was a 1-8 matchup. 4-5 matchup here. Central Catholic visiting Natick. And Mukala, I'm going to start with you. This is a really intriguing matchup. Of course, I help out over at King Philip. We played Natick earlier this year, beat them 23-21, but I have a pretty good sense of who they are. Central Catholic, you can make the argument, might have played the toughest schedule in the state of Massachusetts and one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedules in New England. This is a team that's well equipped to go on the road, especially to a place like Natick, and not only play a good game, but potentially win.
I think this Central Catholic team, along with Tewksbury, are the hottest team in the state right now. I think they finished the season winning their last 4 or 5 games. They've played really well ever since that Methuen game. Caden Smith has gone to another level. Coach Sexton, he's another guy. He likes the physicality. He likes to play physical, control the line of scrimmage, and Natick likes to do the same thing too. So it's almost a game of contrasting styles. But I think Central Catholic is just going to make a couple more plays in the passing game that's going to help them pull out this victory. I think both of these teams are very, very evenly matched. They both got good running backs. They both got a good offensive line to control that line of scrimmage. But I just think Central Catholic has just been battle tested this year. They've played a really, really tough schedule, and they've just been on a roll these last couple of weeks. And it's starting with Caden Smith. I think he's got enough experience now to help his team get this road victory.
An intriguing matchup. I think it's definitely the most balanced one that we have in Division I this week. Natick's a tough team, and they've certainly earned this number 4 seed, and they've earned this home game. But Central Catholic, they're battle tested, like you said, Mukala. I think they're going to be ready for this one. The Caden Smith, Caden Chase. Central's really tough. I like the way they played down the stretch here. They've won 3 in a row since that Methuen loss. Defense is starting to play better. I think it's going to be a back and forth game here. I think this is the one that has the shootout potential, but I like Central Catholic 35-28.
Yeah, it should be a great game and another great game. And I think this is one of the more intriguing games on the schedule this weekend in round 2 of the playoffs. And that is Lowell visiting Springfield Central. Of course, Lowell coming off a big round 1 win over Methuen, and Scott Boyle was the Patriots Coach of the Week, taking on a Springfield Central team that beat Taunton 28-15 last week. And I think that score got some people's attention. I don't know how much I'd read into it, but I will say this. This is a good Lowell team, and they are more than good enough to potentially go out there and give Springfield Central all they can handle.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is gonna be one of those matchups. I think in this round, I think we got a little more evenly matched matchups. I think we're going to see a lot closer games than we've seen in some of the games in the first round. But I think this one is definitely very intriguing just because of both teams and the explosiveness that both teams present with some of their playmakers. I was hearing rumors about Isaiah Rogers and his health, but last I checked, I'm pretty sure he's going to play. So I'm not sure how healthy he is, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. It's going to be a key piece. But I think Jared Steen and those boys with the home field advantage right now, I think they're going to pull it out. But I believe this is going to be a really close game, though. I think Lowell is going to give them all they can handle. I think Lowell matches up with them in certain areas, and offensively, I think Lowell will give that defense some issues. But in the end, I think Jared Stain is just going to make some plays down the stretch to get this team back into the semifinals.
Yeah, we did lose Tyler here. We're hoping to get him back here momentarily. I agree with you, Mukala. I think that when you look at this Lowell team, I do think they could present some problems offensively. Question is, defensively, are they good enough to slow down that Springfield Central offense? That's going to be perhaps the biggest key in the game. Tyler, you're back. Well, how do you see this Springfield Central Lowell game playing out?
Yeah, I think Lowell's, they're really good. They're the only team that's put a scare into Tewksbury this year. They lost that game by a few points. I think it was 4 or 5 points. They lost that game. So this team's really good. I think they're the most underrated team in Division I. They're able to go on the road and beat Methuen last week, a very good Methuen team. I think they're going to be able to keep this one close for a half. I know that Central team's banged up. I haven't really asked around to see if Isaiah Rogers is back. I know Chris Sanchez, got his first carries of the year last week, I think, and led them in rushing. I think he had over 100 yards and a few touchdowns, the former Catholic Memorial player. So he's back and contributing for Springfield Central. I think Central wins. I think they probably end up winning by a couple scores, but this Lowell team, they're definitely underrated. I think they might get some people's attention this week if they're able to keep it close for even a half.
Yeah, and again, Scott Boyle has done a tremendous job getting that program back to a place where they could be a perennial contender in Division One. All right, and the final matchup of the weekend in Division One features Andover at Xaverian. Both teams coming off impressive first-round wins. Xaverian is getting healthy at the right time. Christian McIntyre has established himself as one of the best playmakers in the state. We all know what Will Wood can do. That offense is rolling right now. Can Andover slow them down enough to give themselves a chance to win this game? Tyler?
Yeah, it's Xaverian's just like so impressive. Like obviously back-to-back, state Division I state champions, but like a couple of years ago they lost Charlie Comella in the preseason, and they still win a state championship. And this year they lost Dave Chipagato in the preseason, and they're on the road to making it back to Gillette again. It's just super impressive, and they've had Christian McIntyre emerge as one of the top receivers in the state. After last weekend's game, that he was the first player in Xaverian history, 1,000 yards receiving in a season. So that's super impressive. He's a great playmaker. I think Wood and McIntyre is probably the top receiver quarterback duo in the state right now. Xaverian offense is playing really well. I think, I was really impressed with Andover, the way they played last week too. That's a good Wachusett team, good Wachusett defense, able to hold them to single digits. That was super impressive. Xaverian is just a different beast here. They have too many weapons. And they have that big game experience too. So it's really hard to bet against Xaverian against anyone here. And I think they get it done on their home field and advance to the Final Four yet again.
Yeah, I think Xaverian is also getting healthy at the right time. I know there were some guys, some key guys that were playing hurt throughout the season, but I think they're fully healthy. Besides Chivagato, who we won't see, but Christian McIntyre and Will Wood, they've been a force. They've been hard to stop. Xaverian's defense has been playing very well these last couple of games, and I agree with Tyler. Andover going to Wachusett and dominating the way they did, that really opened my eyes a little bit. I knew this team was good. I knew they were going to win that game. I just didn't know they were going to win in that fashion. I thought it'd be a lot closer than it was, but they dominated that game, and I think that they got a lot of confidence going into this one. I think they'll make Xaverian sweat some in this game. They got some things that they can do, but in the end, it's just the experience with Xaverian. These guys have played in big playoff games the last couple of years, and the quarterback has been really good. Will Wood has been really good in these playoff games, and in these moments, I think they're going to pull this one out at home.
All right, we're going to go over to Division II now. And last week, both Catholic Memorial and Bishop Feehan had bye weeks. They're both back in action this week. Catholic Memorial, in the rematch of the Division II state semifinal last year, hosts Wellesley on Friday night. Wellesley picking up a 27-21 win in overtime over Plymouth North. Wellesley is athletic. They can throw the football. They've got some playmakers. Going into last year's matchup, we thought that they could potentially give Catholic Memorial some problems. It turns out they didn't. Is this a year where this Wellesley team could potentially put a little bit more of a scare into this CM team and make them sweat?
I think if Wellesley had their team from last year, then they would be able to make CM sweat a little bit. I don't think either team is quite as good as they were last year. But CM is CM. We know the story. They're in Division II. They're going to be the favorite for as long as they're in Division II. I think you're going to see a breaking up party here for Christian Simmons in the playoffs. He's had a nice regular season. He's not the biggest back, but he's super elusive in the open field. And I think he's really going to have a solid postseason for CM here. The Knights just have too many weapons. Wellesley has some nice pieces as well. They might be able to, stay on pace for a half or so, maybe not even that. They have nice pieces, but this CM team is just, talent everywhere. They're dealing with some injuries as well, but still just so much talent, so much team speed, big and physical on the lines. Knights are going to win this one.
Yeah, I think too much big plays. big play opportunities for CM that they're gonna have in this game. You talk about Christian Simmons. You also talk about his brother Isaiah Simmons, who's also another one. Ramar Thomas, Caleb Garrity. Just way too many offensive threats. I think Wellesley might score some points here and there, but in the end, I think CM is just too. They're just too good. They just got too much offense, and they're very physical. They're gonna come out with this one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Tyler, they are the favorites again in Division II. Not as good as they were last year, but then you have to ask yourself, is there anybody in this division now that's good enough to potentially dethrone them? Obviously, this division was stronger the last few years with King Philip and Marshfield, who, of course, beat CM 2 years ago in the state semifinal. You had Barnstable. The division is not as deep, but there's still some good teams in this division, and one of those teams is Winchester. Next up, we have a 4-5 matchup with Lincoln Sudbury, who's kind of flown under the radar this year. They've been a good football team, 7-1 during the regular season, visiting Winchester, who, of course, went undefeated. Gianni DePremio, one of the best backs in the state. This should be a really good matchup, and here we are looking for what games could potentially be high-scoring affairs. This is one of them. This could be a shootout.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, only once has Winchester been held under 42 points this year. They scored 35. Was that Arlington, I think? Every other game they've scored at least 42. They've scored more than that. They've scored 50 this season. A lot of weapons. DePremio gets a lot of the attention, and rightfully so. He's an all-state level back, but Ronan O'Connell at quarterback, he had a terrific game last week. This Winchester offense is for real. I think this is the team in the division that could really put a scare into CM. I think they're going to be able to, match their punch offensively and really score on CM. Lincoln Sudbury can score too, though. Matt Tasker's had a nice year in the backfield. I think the Warriors are going to be able to keep this one close. Ultimately, I think Winchester ends up winning by 10 to 14 points, something like that. This Winchester team's really impressive. And I've said for a few weeks now, I think they're the top contender to CM in Division II.
Yeah, the Winchester's the biggest threat to CM just offensively. They put up points, and they put up points fast. They could turn short passes into long ones. They could score with the quickness. Just a lot of firepower on this team. Is Lincoln Sudbury could give them a potentially good game, but I just think this team has just been too much offensively for their opponents, and that continues. That continues this week, and they'll move on to the semifinals. I don't know when the last time they made it to the semifinals, but they're going to get there.
It's been a long time, but Winchester has a rich football history, very good program for a long time. Back when they were the Sachems, they are now the Red and Black. All right, going to the other side of the bracket. Of course, as I mentioned, Bishop Feion was your 2 seed. They had a bye. They take on the 10 seed, Chelmsford. These two teams played earlier this season. Bishop Feion won that matchup. But you know what? George Peterson's Lions are a team that's been in the playoffs a bunch in his tenure there. They have playoff experience. They know this opponent. Could Chelmsford potentially go on the road and give Bishop Feion a game and, dare I say, upset them? Mukala, what do you think?
Chelmsford's been playing really well. This is a very confident team. That confidence showed in their first-round victory, going on the road and winning. I think Chelmsford believe they're going to go in there and get this game, having familiarity with this team, which helps them in preparation. But sometimes there's some certain things you can't prepare for, like that physicalness of the line of Bishop Feion. That defense is very tough. But I do think this is going to be a very close game. I want to say Chelmsford is going to go with I'm going to say Chelmsford is going to get the upset this one. They've just been rolling. They've played really well. I think they're in the rhythm. So I'm gonna go on a limb and pick Chelmsford to get the upset.
Chelmsford, they're impressive. They had that gutsy win last week against Quincy on the road. They were down, by a point with just under 3 minutes left in the game, and they were able to score and win that game on the road. So this team's playing with a lot of confidence right now. They played Fee in the last 2 regular seasons, so there is a lot of familiarity. Seeing this team for the 3rd time in 2 seasons, I think that's really going to help. Ultimately, though, I think Feion has better line play, and they have a lot of experience at skill spots too. Owen Mortis, Andrew Orfanos, these guys have been around for a while. Mankins anchoring both lines for Feion. Listen, Fiend's tough. They've been pretty much in our top 10 all season long in the New England Football Journal top 25. They're a good team, and I think this is going to play out pretty similarly to it did the first time around. Chelmsford's going to hang for half, might even be winning at halftime. Ultimately, though, Fiend wins by about 10 points.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fiend is the better team here. I think that they'll take care of business, but I could see Chelmsford playing them pretty tight. They did earlier this year, and that's why Mukala is confident in picking them, because they hung in there with him. And teams like this can be dangerous this time of year, and Peterson is a good coach, runs a good program. It should be an interesting matchup. Another interesting matchup is the final game we're going to take a look at in Division II for this weekend, and it pits the 3-seed Bridgewater Raynham Trojans taking on the six-seeded Billerica Indians. I think this is a fascinating matchup. And when we look at Billerica, they were a team during the regular season that kind of flew under the radar in the MVC, started to play some really good football down the stretch, beat Methuen in the regular season finale, turned around last week, won in the first round of the playoffs, beating Beverly. BR beat Woburn. I think that, again, here we are talking about high-scoring affairs. This is another game that could potentially be a high-scoring affair. The weather's going to be nice. It's going to be cold, but it's going to be a good night for football. Both of these teams are going to be able to air it out and throw the football. We could potentially see a lot of points in this one, Tyler.
We could, and I should know this, but first year post Dwayne Sigsbury, what's their base offense? I think they're running double wing in Billerica. Is that right? I think that's right.
I haven't seen them play live.
It's like a
year,
combination. So. They do run a double wing, and then they do some I formation and stuff. But they're one of those heavy run teams, though.
Yeah, it's much different than what we've seen when under Dwayne Sigsbury. It's more run based, and they want to beat you with physicality, beat you at the point of attack.
Sigs like to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I think Billerica, if they're able to play their game and put together these long drives and keep the ball out of the hands of Jack Lambert, then they're going to have some success. They're playing well here down the stretch. Billerica is a team that was 500, and then they beat Drake, and then they beat Methuen, which is their best win of the year. And then they won last week against Beverly, and the defense is playing much better. They're running the ball. They're controlling the clock, controlling the line of scrimmage. They're doing a great job with that. I think because of that, they're going to be able to keep this game close. I just don't know if they have the offensive firepower to quite match BR. So I think at the end of the day, BR wins by a score, 28-21, 24-21, something like that. But I think it's a one-possession game. Jack Lambert and the Trojans offense, though, especially at the skill spots, they have a lot of experience. They're going to be ready for this one.
Yeah, the key for Billerica is definitely going to be clock control. If they could control the time of possession, keep that offense on the sideline and, use up clock, long drives, as you said, they'll give themselves a chance to go on the road and win this game. They've played really well down the stretch, and they got some momentum going. Sometimes momentum really helps in the way you close the season. So, they beat Methuen. They get the win last week over a very good Beverly team. I think they shut them out. And so they've seen a team with explosive offense. So their defense has a lot of confidence in this one. I think Billerica is going to pull it off. Now, the only reason I'm picking this is because one of my best friends, his college roommate, went to Billerica, and they were in my DMs telling me I need to stop picking against them. So that's
Now that's research you can trust.
Yeah, right.
There you go. All right, let's move over to Division III. And, of course, Division III, we've been saying it all year. It's going to be a gauntlet this time of year. Some of the best programs in Eastern Massachusetts reside in Division III. Specifically, a lot of the Division II programs that were prime contenders for Catholic Memorial in recent years, namely King Philip, Marshfield, Barnstable, they all dropped down. Division III already had Mansfield, North Attleboro, Milford, amongst others. You also have Masco in that mix. Now you have those teams along with Milton, and it is a wagon division. In the first matchup we're going to take a look at here, pits King Philip against Mansfield, the 1-8 matchup. This is a rekindling of a long-standing rivalry. These two teams haven't played each other in 4 years. Longtime Hockomock rivals, specifically in the 2010s, when they matched up a bunch from 2015 to 2021. They're matching up once again. I thought Mike Redding said it best last week, fellas. He said, we didn't think we'd see each other at this point in the playoffs. I think in his eyes, he knew it was a fait accompli that they were going to have to get through King Philip to get back to Gillette Stadium. This is going to be a dandy of a game. These two have played some great matchups in the playoffs through the years. I would know. I've been involved in all of them. So I have a pretty good idea of how stressful and tough these games are. This should be a fantastic matchup once again. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Can we expect a tight game here? Mansfield beats Plymouth South last week, 23-15. King Philip romps over Chicopee Comp, but this is going to be a much different game for the Warriors.
Yeah, it will be, and I'm happy these two teams are playing. It's as you said, John, some thrillers in the past. In Mansfield's 3 losses this year, so Mansfield's 6-3, and their 3 losses, those are the 3 games that they failed to score 20 points. It's going to be hard to score 20 points against this King Philip defense, consistently one of the best defenses in the state. So they're very sound defensively, and they play great defense, but they also play that ball control, run first offense. So you don't get many possessions. Possessions are limited. So I think at the end of the day, Mansfield might be able to match the physicality for 3 quarters even, but I think King Philip's going to wear them down come the 4th quarter. And I just don't think Mansfield's going to be able to get to that magic number of 20. I think it's going to be something like 24-14 KP. Warriors go back to the Final Four.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those good old Hockomock League battles that we got going on here. But in the end, King Philip is just going to pull it out. I think they're going to make the more plays. That running game, I just can't say enough about King Philip's running game. I think that's going to always be the difference in this game. Mansfield will put up a good fight, but King Philip is going to make it back to the Final Four. They're just too good for Mansfield this season.
All right, and the winner of that game will advance to take on the winner of Hingham Malden Catholic, which is a pretty intriguing matchup here. Malden Catholic picking up their first MIAA playoff win in program history last week, taking on, I should say, a Hingham team that has kind of flown under the radar all year. They've been one of the best teams in Division III all season long, been in the top 5, but not a lot of people are talking about TJ Burns' squad. This, I think, will be a really good game, but Malden Catholic beat Marshfield last week, who's been a perennial Final Four team the last few years. It's a pretty big win for Joe Gaff's squad. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. Is this team good enough to potentially get to Gillette Stadium?
Good enough? I don't know. They're it's like they're taking the right steps for the program. They're taking the steps in the right direction for the program. Getting the playoff win, going on the road to Marshfield and winning. That was a big step in the right direction for this guy. But, talent-wise, they got that big receiver, Jeremiah Figaro, out there, who is one of the best receivers out there. Anthony Wadlin, he's like a slot receiver, a running back. They put him in different spots on the field where he can make plays. So they do have some playmakers. I just think Hingham this season, Hingham's been good all season. They played a tough schedule. They got the playmakers. They got the fundamentals. They're fundamentally sound. I just think Hingham might be a little more experienced than them. I think that might be the difference in this one, the experience. But Malden Catholic is going to give them a fight. I mean, they do got some playmakers on offense, but I think Hingham just this year has just been really good, and I think Malden Catholic is still like steps away from getting to Gillette, but their program wise, they've taken the steps in the right direction.
Yeah, the Lancers are on the ascension here. They're one of the, I think, a team to watch here over these next couple of years. It was very impressive. It wasn't by seed; it was the second biggest upset of the weekend last weekend. But I think if you're just looking at the teams on paper, I thought that was the biggest upset. But maybe we shouldn't have been that surprised to see the smaller Catholic team pull it off. They played a difficult schedule. They played Nashua South and Windham, New Hampshire in the regular season, and of course they played the Catholic Conference Gauntlet. So this team's going to play against a lot of skilled teams. They played against a lot of quality opponents. Trayvon Turner last week, he had that 95-yard touchdown run. This a lot of speed, a lot of skill on the small Catholic team. But I think Hingham can match that. Hingham has a lot of speed, a lot of team speed, a lot of skill as well. At the end of the day, Jake Varholic, guys like that at quarterback, Chase Bailey, Ray Bello. There's a lot of skill on this team. and it's an experienced skill group as well. Mukala, you kind of touched on the big game experience, more playoff experience for this Hingham group. I think that's going to be the difference at the end of the day. Hingham wins, but Malta Catholic's going to be a scrappy 12 seed here, and I think Hingham probably wins like 24-21, something like that. But I think the Harbormen advance to meet King Philip.
All right, next up, we're going to go to the other side of the bracket where we have a 2-7 matchup. Barnstable hosting North Attleboro. Both teams winning 21-14 last week, escaping potential first-round upset bids by Milford and Doherty, respectively. It should be an interesting game from the standpoint of you got North Attleboro, Frankie Strachan, that physical downhill running game against Barnstable, who has proven all year long that they can hold up front defensively, one of the better fronts in Eastern Mass. Of course, you talk about Jason Dyer in that running game, a battle of two really good backs here. I think this is going to be one of those games, fellas, where whichever team can establish their style of play early can take control of the game and win it.
Absolutely. I kind of called an audible today. I thought I was going to be at Archbishop Williams Hanover, but this is the game I'll be at. So, it's not too often I get to stay on the Cape, but I'll be staying on Cape for this one. I'm looking forward to it. I think, John, you said it right. Like whichever team can kind of dictate how the game flow and set their style up is going to come out on top in this one. North Attleboro, they're super impressive. I think they've played the tougher schedule overall this year, playing teams like King Philip, playing teams like Foxborough. It's going to have them battle tested, ready for this game, ready for these type of moments that Mansfield can. They've had to go through that murderer's row of the Hockomock League. So I think they're going to be ready. Frankie Strachan, he's playing well. Again, you mentioned last week both teams won by a score. Both teams actually erased 4-0 deficits. So I think that was a bit surprising early on. But I think it also showed a lot about the mental toughness of these two teams where they get down on their home fields, get down to these 2-score deficits, and they're able to rally and win playoff games over quality opponents. I think North wins 21-14, something like that. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We're going to see a lot of running in this game. Frankie Strachan on North Attleboro, Jason Dyer on Barnstable. This should be a really fun one. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, Barnstable's in the Hockomock League, but this is going to have that sort of Hockomock League style with the physicality and the running games. I think the Red Rocketeers get it done and go back to the state semifinals.
North Attleboro is still defending their title. They want to get another one. So this is a team that's hungry to get back to Gillette and get themselves another one. And they played. They played themselves into a good position to try to get back there. We talk about the Hockomock League and that schedule and that league, how it prepares you for the playoffs, and I think it's prepared them for this moment. North Attleboro, what we know about them, they like to run the ball, they like to be physical on the offensive line. That seems to be the case with a lot of the Hockomock League teams. So I think that will be no different this matchup. I think North Attleboro is going to pull this one out.
All right, and the final matchup in Division 3 is also pretty intriguing. You've got Masco and Jack Fabiano. He will lead the Chieftains down to take on Milton. Of course, the Wildcats coming off a big win over Reading in the first round. And here we go again in terms of contrast in styles. You got Patrick Collins, Ronan Salmon, Steve Dombowski's Wildcats want to sling it all over the yard. Masco leans on Jack Fabiano, if not one of the best backs in the state. You can make an argument he might be the best back in the state, at least during the regular season. And I think he's going to continue to prove it during the playoffs. I think this is a game that comes down to the offensive and defensive lines of each of these programs respectively, and who can establish themselves early on. Because if Masco can establish Fabiano in that run game early on, they're going to be tough to beat.
It will be. This is going to be fun. I would suggest you take the over in this one. Both of these teams can really score. Again, you said they do it in contrast.
We don't do gambling here on the high school preview show, Amaral.
No, for fun only.
Not brought to you by DraftKings.
Yeah, not yet.
We're getting desperate times call for desperate measures.
Oh man!
But Fabiano has put together I think it's back-to-back games of 300 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just like, truly video game numbers for Fabiano. But this Masco team, they can throw the ball as well. I think, honestly, of all the 32 matchups in the playoffs this week in the state, I think this is the biggest toss-up to me, at least in my eyes. I think I lean Masco here. I think there's kind of special vibes around that Masco team this year. This Milton team is very good as well. It's tough to go against Steve Dembowski, especially on Milton's home field. I already did that once, and they beat Natick when I picked against them. But I'm going to do it again here. I like the Chieftains, 35-28, something like that.
Yeah. I think what's good for Milton is they faced a good running back in the Mortarelli from Natick, and he had a big run, but throughout that game he didn't really do much. They held him in check, so maybe they'll use that blueprint to try to slow down Fabiano. But he's a tough guy to bring down. I mean, 300 yards last week in the win. They've kind of put the team on his back. They've kind of said, you're going to take us to where we need to be, and he's doing that so far right now. I think Masco, I think that their only loss was to Winchester this season. This might be one of those years that it might just be one of those years and one of those teams that is destined to get there. So I'm going to pick Masco in this one.
Yeah, and the Milton folks watch this show, and they are quick to remind us whenever we don't think they're physical enough or good enough to beat someone. So I'm sure some way, somehow, both of you picking Masco is going to end up becoming bulletin board material for the Wildcats.
We're giving them motivation.
That's it. Hey, Coach Dembowski doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is count on us to motivate his team, and we'll do it for him. All right, before we head over to Division IV, I do want to remind you that you are watching the high school preview show presented by Gold Athletics. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. Just a quick reminder, winter coaches, your season is a couple weeks away. If you're looking for a last-minute fundraiser to bring in some money for your program, well, then Gold Athletics can help you. Visit goldathletics.com for more information. Matt Ross and his team have a variety of fundraisers that fit your school, your program, and your community. Again, visit goldathletics.com today for more information. And spring coaches, your season's not that far away either. If you need a fundraiser this winter to make some money before your season starts in March, make sure that you visit goldathletics.com today. Matt and his team do a tremendous job helping programs raise money. They truly are the best in the business. So get over to goldathletics.com today and check out what they have to offer. All right, Division IV, the first matchup we're going to take a look at here is a 1-9 matchup. Situate, the 1 seed, hosting Walpole. Situate coming off a 33-10 win over Tantascwa. Walpole coming from behind to beat a good Bedford team. This is Walpole's time of the year. They typically play their best football down the stretch and in the playoffs. Are they playing good enough football, though, to beat a talented Situate team that is one of the 2 favorites in this division? They're the 1 seed, but a lot of people universally will tell you that Situate and Tewksbury are your 2 favorites. Is Walpole good enough, Mukala, to go on the road and beat this Situate team?
It's a tall task. It's a very tall task. This Situate team is, I think since that Plymouth South game, they've really I don't think they've let up. I think they've been focused. They haven't taken any opponents lightly. They've been sound on both sides of the ball, and they got the championship experience. So Walpole might give a good fight early, but I think Situate is just gonna pull this one out, just because of their experience, their talent, and what and also what's at stake for them.
Yeah, it's Johnny Donovan and Grayson Foley's time of the year, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Walpole, they do the same thing every year. They get off these slow starts. They're sub 500 through September, and then they start to put it together as the season goes on, and then they win at least one road playoff game. And that was a thriller last week against Bedford. Situate, though, this is a little bit different of a Situate team than we've seen in the past. Like, they can still score, make no mistake, but this defense, I think, is as good as we've seen under Herb Devine, especially since that Plymouth South loss. They haven't given up more than 14 points in a game, and they played some good offenses. So I think the Sailors have a really strong defense this year. You mentioned Johnny Donovan. Grayson Foley's back. He missed some time towards the end of the season, but he's back now. Looks like he's at 100%. As he ran circles, past the Tantascwa defense. Miller Shea is a strong receiver as well. Situate still has weapons, but I think it's the defense that is really going to win the day here. I think they're going to do what they've done over the last month and month and a half or whatever it is, and contain Walpole's at like 14 points, something like that. Win by 10 to 14 points, and kind of keep the train moving here to another semifinal berth.
Yeah, and if they win, they will go on to potentially face a very familiar foe. The next matchup in Division 4 is a 4-5 matchup. It features Burlington at Duxbury. Burlington, of course, is undefeated this season. Ryan Brooks and company have had a great year. The Red Devils hope to go on the road and beat a Duxbury team that looked like a young team for most of the season, but they turned it on down the stretch. Of course, as I mentioned, if Duxbury wins this game, we get Situate Duxbury again. This time it won't be at Gillette, but we're going to get them in the playoffs once again. Of course, Situate beat Duxbury earlier this year. But this Burlington team, Mukala, is going to have something to say about this game and how it plays out.
This Burlington team out of the Middlesex Conference, Middlesex League, they're undefeated. They're really good offensively. This is a different challenge that they're going to be facing with with Duxbury. As you said, Duxbury.
Cold's getting to you, huh?
Right. Duxbury, I think with Duxbury, we talked about how young they are, but I think coaching at this point for young teams that get to this point, I think coaching really matters. I think Duxbury's coaching staff is definitely going to put them in the right position for them to try to get that, to punch their ticket to the Final Four. But I'm going to go with Burlington in this one. I think Burlington just has had a really good season. They've been playing really well. They've looked really good, especially offensively. I think if Duxbury slows down this game, they'll probably have a chance to win this one. But I'm gonna go with Burlington in this one. I think some of these teams. I think right now they're just trying to cash in on that great regular season that they've had.
Yeah, I mean Ryan Brooks and company, they're gonna be tough to stop. It's a very run-heavy team. So again, we're seeing those contrasts and styles here. Can Burlington keep the ball away from Duxbury, a team that wants to throw the ball there with Brady Ryan Smith and company? I think this is gonna be a good game. Duxbury's really played well. They started off the season 2-3 since that Londonderry loss, or since the Hingham loss. They've put together 4 straight wins. It seems like the defense is starting to play better, starting to get back to that Duxbury pedigree, that the level of play they expect from that defense. It's a true toss-up again. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I lean Duxbury. I think Burlington might have the better defense, but I think the Dragons overall have more skill on the offensive side, and that's going to be the difference. 28-21, Dragons win.
All right, we're going to go to the other side of the bracket for a 1-7 matchup that features Ashland hitting the road to take on 2-7 matchup. Ashland hitting the road to take on the 2 seed Tewksbury. Look, Tewksbury's been rolling all season long. They have the look of the best team in this division. They have the look of a team that's one of the best teams in the state. They could realistically match up with 90-95% of the state in terms of head-to-head. Ashland coming off a big come-from-behind win over Danvers. Coach McKay has the Clockers playing some good football, but are they playing good enough football, Tyler Amaral, to potentially go on the road and upset a Tewksbury team that has been dominant all season long coming out of the MVC?
The win last week against Danvers was super impressive. I picked Danvers in that one. I was wrong, but this Ashland team, they've really dominated the Tri-Valley. Their one loss was a close 1-score game to undefeated Archbishop Williams, and then they kind of dominated and handled the rest of their schedule. Tewksbury, I think, is a different animal, though. We talk about it every week. They have, they can match up physically with teams across the board. You mentioned really 95% of the teams, it's probably more like 99% of the teams they can match up with physically. We saw what they did to a good Andover team. Andover's team we talked about playing in the Division I quarterfinals. They were up 34-0 on this team at halftime. So they're the best team in the division. They should be considered the favorite, I think. And they keep it rolling here, and they advance to the state semifinals once again under Coach Aylward. You talk about guys like Will Harrison, Emeka Olu. There's just too many weapons, but they're also physical, and they also play great defense. Super well-rounded team. They win this one.
Yeah, I think Tewksbury has just been the team this year. I mean, them and Situate in this division, they've been the team. Tewksbury, they've faced all the challenges. They've overcame it. They've dominated teams. They've won the close games. Yeah, Tewksbury is moving on this one. There's not much I can say about this team. This is a very, very good football team.
All right, finally, we have a 3-6 matchup, which features Marblehead hitting the road to take on the Canton Bulldogs. Canton coming off an impressive win last week over Wakefield, 35-22. Marblehead beat Shepherd Hill, 42-14. Marblehead is a program that, again, Coach Rudloff and his staff do a great job there year in and year out. They're a factor in the playoffs. Can they be a factor once again against a Canton team that could score points? They have playmakers. They can win a shootout kind of game. But as we saw against Mansfield, they can also win a game that can get down and dirty and physical here. Can Marblehead go on the road here, Tyler Amaral, and beat this Canton team out of the Hockomock League?
They can, absolutely. I think this is probably the best game of the 4 this weekend in Division 4. Marblehead can, listen, they can really score. They had that heartbreaking loss to Masconomet, and then they had a little bit of a letdown the final week of the regular season against Danvers. Only scored 7 points, but that offense got back on track against Shepherd Hill, putting up 42 points. Finn Gallup, he's a terrific quarterback. So listen, the Magicians, absolutely, they can go on the road and pull this one off. Will they? I'm not so sure. I think I'd lean Canton in this one, probably by a touchdown, something like that. The Bulldogs are a very good team. They're well-rounded on offense. JT Norton's a terrific player, very elusive at the quarterback position. If he's able to break contain out of the pocket, then he's tough to handle in the open field. Nick Crow complements him well in the backfield. There's a lot of skill on this Canton team, but they're also very good defensively. I think they're more versatile. They can kind of play to more different game scripts. Bulldogs are going to win this one because of that. They just have, I think, more versatility, and they can play in any number of ways. So if this game's played in the teens, I like Canton, but they can also match up if this game's played in the 30s. Give me the Bulldogs.
I think this might be a shootout. I think this game might be a shootout. Yeah, if you do want to take the over, you might want to take the over in this one. We don't gamble, but I'm just saying.
Brought to you by DraftKings.
Marblehead, they have those 2 slip-ups, at the end of the season, losing their last 2 games. But I think this is still a really good football team. I think they do have the team that could go down to Canton and get the victory. I think it'll be a shootout. I think if it's a low-scoring game, Canton's going to win it. But I think this will be a shootout, and I think Marblehead's going to pull out the victory in this one.
All right, now Ryan Cadris joins the show. Ryan, great to hear from you, man. Of course, Ryan helps out over at Situate High School. He's a part of the staff. Says Donovan, very accurate right now, seeing the field well. Of course, he's talking about Sailors senior quarterback Johnny Donovan. But Ryan, one of the coaches at Situate High School, and he does a great job under Herb Devine, and that entire staff does a great job. Situate's been one of the best programs in the state the last few years. Coach Cadris, thanks for checking in, brother. We appreciate it. All right, let's go over to Division 5 now, when we have a 1-8 matchup to kick off the quarterfinals. It features St. Mary's of Lynn hitting the road to take on the number 1 seeded Shawsheen Rams. Shawsheen currently has the longest winning streak in the state. They have been a wagon the last 2 years. Mukala Kabongo, do the good times keep going along here for the Shawsheen Rams? Do they win and advance to the Final Four?
The first meeting between these 2 teams was an absolute slugfest. It was a really good game, and Shawsheen pulled it out at the end. St. Mary's held the Shawsheen run game in check, but Shawsheen made the plays in the end. It was such an evenly matched game, that first matchup, and also both teams had guys hurt in that game. Tidsley was not 100% in that game. The Spartans, they had to move around some players on their offensive line due to injuries, but all those guys are back, and everyone from Shawsheen Tech is fully healthy now. So we got both teams fully healthy in this one. It's going to be a tough task for St. Mary's to go up there and win. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be very tough for them. We saw what Shawsheen did to Salem last week. The brothers in the running game, the band of brothers in that running game, it's going to be tough. But I can't go against the home team. I'm gonna make St. Mary's in this one to pull out a close victory because they had them on the ropes but they just didn't. It was just that last 2 minutes of the game that got them. So they should have some confidence going into this one, knowing they played them really well and they were leading throughout that game. So I'm picking St. Mary's to end the streak in this one, only because I can't pick against the home team or I can't go show my face anywhere in the city.
I received some stats from Shawsheen defensive coordinator Brian Tilsley. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the state. This team's won 23 straight games. Over the last 4 seasons, they're 44-2. They're looking for their 4th straight Division 5 state semifinal appearance, and they're looking for their 3rd Gillette trip in 4 years. It's just a terrific program under Al Calsabile. The defense.
Al Costabile, he told me. He wanted me to remind people. Al Costabile. So there you go, Coach Costabile. I said it with a nice Italian twang. Not bad for a Greek.
You mentioned the Bandas. They've got Jake, Cam, Eric, all 3 of them. Jake Banda, Dylan Pratt leading that offense. James Tilsley leading the defense. This team they're so good. They're so well rounded. They're one of these. They remind me of King Philip in a lower division where they play great defense, they run the ball, and they're never going to beat themselves. They're really well coached. You mentioned how St. Mary's had them on the ropes the first game. That's absolutely true. I can't pick against Shawsheen here. This defense is too good. They're too sound. I don't think they're going to give up any explosive plays to St. Mary's, and they're going to be able to pull this one off, something like 21-14. It's going to be pretty low scoring, but I like the Rams in this one.
All right, next matchup is another matchup to watch here in Division 5. It could end up being a really good game between 2 teams that, again, I keep saying flying under the radar, but it is a theme. Now, I'll say this. I don't think Medfield has necessarily flown under the radar. I think Eric Ornberg's squad has gotten a lot of people's attention. But North Reading, different story. I think they have truly flown under the radar this year. North Reading at Medfield should be a really good game. Can that North Reading defense hold up against Brady McCormick, Mateo Benson, and that Warriors running game? Mukala, what are your thoughts on this one?
Medfield is another one of those teams where it seems like this might just be their year. Brady McCormick, they've gave him the ball and told him to lead us to the promised land, and he's been doing that. He's been one of the best backs in the state. I mean, I keep getting messages from folks asking me to name the top 10 running backs in the MIAA, and I'm just like, that's hard to do because there's at least like 20 of them that's really have had
so many
really
good
great
ones
seasons.
this year. Such a deep position in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, and I feel like the last 2 years, the running back position has really been producing so much, and McCormick is one of those. And I think Medfield, I just think this might be their year. It looks like this is going to be their year, the way just things has been unfolding for them. So they're going to come out with the win in this one.
This North Reading team, a lot of skill back from last year. Their only losses to their I don't know. Like the one team that they can't handle on the Cape Ann League for whatever reason has been Amesbury. Even like when they won the state championship, they lost to Amesbury. So Amesbury was their kryptonite once again this year. Other than that, though, this team's been firing on all cylinders. Really talented. Otto and Delicato, Jason Berry, ton of skill on this team. I think they do have the physicality to be able to slow down McCormick and company. You're not going to shut him down, but if you can slow him down, limit the big plays, you have a chance. I think North Reading goes on the road and wins this one. I believe in the Hornets and that skill group. Should be a high scoring game. Another high scoring game. I like North Reading to go on the road and pull this one out.
All right. So upset prediction here by our Tyler Amaral. All right. Next up, we have a 2-7 matchup. On the other side of the bracket, the Gloucester Fishermen hitting the road to take on the Foxborough Warriors at Ahern Middle School, which is literally on the other side of my house here in Foxborough. So should be a pretty interesting matchup from the standpoint of you've got Foxborough and their defense, always one of the top defenses in the state, taking on a Gloucester team that is back. You can make the argument the Fishermen are back, running their patented Delaware wing tee offense. They're back as a perennial playoff team again. Of course, we all know how good this program was for years, a frequent participant in the Super Bowl at Gillette Stadium in the early years of the Bowls being played at Gillette. Can Gloucester go into Foxborough here against that vaunted defense and that Foxborough running game, Ryan Foley, Jack Taft and company? Can this Gloucester team potentially go on the road, Tyler, and put a scare in the Warriors, or are the Warriors just that much better?
They can. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't think either team's going to really have many possessions. This Gloucester team wants to run the ball. They have the trio of backs there: Severino, Cribbs, Allen. It's been an impressive team throughout the year, and they had a nice win last week over a good Auburn team. Foxborough, though, they're very impressive. I've seen them 3 times this year. The only time they were 2-1 in those games. Only time they lost was to King Philip. In a game they were up 12-0. And the defense is terrific. Ryan Foley's one of the better two-way players in the state. He was a little banged up last week, and then we saw their second back, Jack Taft, score 5 first-half touchdowns against Norton. So there's depth there too, but they're bigger and more physical than most teams that Gloucester's seen this season and most teams in Division 5. Warriors are super well-rounded. And again, the defense is just so good. Gloucester beats teams with the run game and the physicality. You're not going to be able to do that against Foxborough. So Gloucester's had a great season. I just don't think they can go down to Foxborough and win it.
This is going to be a tall task for Gloucester, I do say, but they do have those 3 running backs I really like that can be a difference maker in this one, but they're going to have to go against a team that's really sound defensively. They're really good, especially against the run. So Gloucester has to be very, very sound with what they do and can't make no mistakes if they want to go down to Foxborough and get the win. I want to put Gloucester, but I just think Foxborough might just have too much experience, and they still have a nasty taste of what happened last year. They were trying to get back and trying to right that wrong. So I'm going to go – this is going to be a close one, but I think it's going to be one of those 21-14 game Foxborough.
Yeah, coming into these playoffs, I thought Division 5 was more balanced than what we had seen the last 2 years, but pretty early on, and I mean, obviously anything can happen this weekend and in the Final Four, but pretty early on, it seems like it's in the cards again, and it looks like, at least early impressions look like we could potentially get Shawsheen Foxborough again. So we'll see. And finally, your next matchup features Hanover and Archbishop Williams. It's a 3-6 matchup. Archie surviving last week against Swampscott, while Hanover winning in impressive fashion last week over over Weston. So Archie's hitting the road to take on Hanover. Tyler Amaral, I know that a lot of people had high expectations for this Archbishop Williams team in the playoffs. Very impressive during the regular season. A lot of people were a little surprised by the fact that they didn't play as well on offense last week, but hat tip to Peter Bush's Swampscott team. That team plays pretty good defense. They can also run the ball. They were able to keep Hudson Garrity and company off the field. This game could be a little different here. Hanover stylistically may not be the same as Swampscott, but they score a lot of points and they're really skilled. Does Archbishop Williams have a chance in this game? Skill-wise, they probably match up. The question is, can they score enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can. I saw them play last week. I was at the Archbishop Williams versus Swampscott matchup, and Archie's, everyone talks about Hudson Garrity, rightfully so, in that offense, and they've been really clicking throughout the season. Last week, to me, was more. It was eye-opening, but it was also super impressive in my eyes, where they're able to win a low-scoring game. The offense doesn't really have it going. I think for a while there, Hudson Garrity was hovering around 50% of his passes completed. Swampscott did a terrific job, but they were able to match the physicality. They were able to run the ball when they need to. Sophomore Syer Copeland, he had a nice second half where they really just leaned on him. I think he had like 8 carries on a 9-play drive, and he was really moving the chains for this team. So the physicality was impressive, but guys like Zay Wiggum, who gets a lot of headlines for his abilities at wide receiver, it was Blake Nelson and Zay Wiggum off the edge that really caused some problems for that Swamp. other than a few screen passes that went for 20 plus yards, Archie's did a terrific job against the Swampscott offense. So I think Archie's, to me, that was a really eye-opening win, just the way they played that game. It wasn't just, this run and shoot offense where they're just looking to outscore you. They got nasty, they got physical, and they were able to win a low-scoring game. Hanover has played a much more challenging schedule to this point than Archbishop Williams. They're one of the few teams that has matched up against Archbishop Williams that can match that skill. Brandon Errico is one of the best players in the bracket for Hanover. I think the Hawks should be ready for this one. I haven't even talked about the storylines in this one of Chris and Mark Landolfi going back to Hanover after winning a Super Bowl there in 2016. Mark Landolfi's daughter is a cheerleader on Hanover, so a lot of ties in this one. And then, of course, a lot of the Archie's roster is from the South Shore, so there's a lot of familiarity in this one. Should make for a fun one. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring, but ultimately I think Hanover's a more well-rounded team, and they've played a more challenging schedule, so I like the Hawks.
Yeah, I think Hanover is going to try to put a lot of pressure on the young quarterback and try to make him beat him. I think they might throw some stuff at him that he hasn't seen this season. And Hanover's another one of those teams that are really good. But I just think they're going to put a lot of pressure on the young quarterback, and we might see a little inexperience, or we might see a little youth on his side in this game. So I'm going to go with Hudson. I'm going to go. Archbishop Williams is not going to move on in this one.
All right, let's move on to Division 6, where we start that bracket with a 1-8 matchup between Norwell and Pentucket. Tyler, I'm going to start with you here.
Ooh.
Your views on this one. This is an interesting matchup, but this Norwell team has been one of the best teams on the South Shore all season. They're probably more of a contender in this division than people are willing to give them credit for. I think a lot of people are forgetting how good the 1 seed in Division 6 really is.
Oh yeah, I mean they're very good. They've they're the only 2 losses are to Situate and Abington, both by 1 score. I was at both of those games. So the Clippers probably don't want me covering any more of their games because they're 0-2 when I'm in attendance. But
you're a bad omen.
They're good.
They won't be there this week, so that's good.
That is true. Pentucket's a good team. They really handled an undefeated Nantucket team who played on that, the infamous Friday 2 p.m. playoff game last week. Pentucket handled business, man. Listen, Nick Carrion and these guys, Stephen Harper, there's a lot of talent on that Pentucket team. I think they're going to be able to hang for a half. They're going to be able to score on this Norwell team. At the end of the day, though, Jack Lucarelli, can you keep him under 200 yards? Really is what it comes down to. He's such a terrific athlete. Once he gets to that second level, he's really tough to break down. He pulls a takedown and he pulls away from defenders. He's going to be the difference on this one. Norwell wins.
Yeah, I think Norwell's going to win this one. Pentucket, good season. They're going to give a good effort, but I just think Norwell's Norwell's going to dominate this one.
All righty, moving along here. The next game we have is a 5-13 matchup, which features Old Rochester versus Hudson. Old Rochester is going to have to hit the road to go take on the defending Division 6 champions. Can the Bulldogs go on the road and pull off the upset against the Hawks, Mr. Mukala Kabongo?
You went into what is triple overtime last week. Now you're gonna go again, taking out an even better team. I don't think they're gonna do it. I don't think they're gonna be able to do it. Closer drive, but still, I don't think all of Rochester is gonna get this one.
Old Rochester started the season off, in 0-4, and then they're able to win 3 of their final 4 in the regular season. Only loss was to St. Mary's at home by a touchdown. So they're playing great football. They won that triple overtime game. Old Rochester, I think, is a little bit ahead of a schedule here. They're super young. They started a lot of sophomores. I think they're a team that's going to be the favorite or one of the favorites in Division 6 in 2026 and 2027. But we saw the basketball team at Old Rochester make a deep run as a 20 seed in March. They made all the way to the state championship game. I think the football team is going to go on a similar run here. They go on the road again, win at Hudson. Sophomore running back Benji Baptiste has been phenomenal down the stretch for the Bulldogs. I like how they're playing right now. I really do. And I think they advanced to the state semifinals.
All right, going over to the other side of the bracket, we have a 2-7 matchup. It features Bishop Fenwick hitting the road to take on Abington. Of course, Abington is a well-known program in the Kabongo family tree. A lot of connections there. Fenwick coming off a 27-14 win over Medway, while Abington beat Triton 42-20. Tyler Amaral, I'm going to start with you. Can the Crusaders go on the road and upset the 2 seed here?
I don't think so. I mean, Bishop Fenwick's played well. They've sort of been up and down, but they've had some really high highs this year. Dylan Patarelli is a very good player. They have a lot of skill returning. They expected to be in a playoff team. I think they expected to have a little bit better of a regular season than they did. Abington is just too tough. They play terrific defense, and it's just the amount of skill they have as a D6 program is just insane on offense. I think, a couple of weeks ago, their like opening drive of the game, it was 11 plays, and I think 8 guys touched the ball, and they rotate 5-6 backs. It's so tough to play against them. They always have a fresh back, really good quarterback play in Jack Riley as well. Green Wave, keep it rolling here. They beat Fenwick.
From my inside sources on this game, what they told me as they watched film on Fenwick, they said their offense does present some issues, but their offense is a little bit easier to game plan for their guys, that now that they don't have to game plan against like a double wing team and all that. For some reason, teams that run the double wing gives them some type of issues, or gives their defense some issues here and there. But they told me like their guys defensively are equipped to handle an offense like Bishop Fenwick. That's what I was told from my inside sources. But and also, I've got my social media has been a little bit wild this week from the Bishop Fenwick side. Some of the stuff they've been sending me about this game. So it's been very interesting. But I do think Bishop Fenwick can go down there and put up some points. They do. Andrew, the sophomore quarterback, he's really good. They got some playmakers on the outside, but as you said, I think this Abington team is just they're just really good. They have a lot of guys. They do it in a variety of ways. Jack Riley is playing really well at the quarterback position, but they got guys, Kingston Maxwell on the outside, and then those running back, those ever-changing running backs that they got in. So Abington is going to give them some stuff that they quite haven't seen this season. I think Abington is going to pull this one. I think this might be a 2-score game.
It is amazing. No one ever sends me anything. I feel left out. I must come across as a prick. No one wants to ever talk about anything with me. Excuse me. They do attack me on social media sometimes for some of my takes. But generally speaking, no one's DMing me going, "Hey man, let's talk high school football. Here's what we're gonna do this weekend to so and so." It's great that they come to you guys though.
They're on you about BC football this week, huh? They
were, but we made amends. Mukala. I broke some bread with a couple of them, and then the piece I wrote yesterday shed some light into some of their concerns, shall we say. All right, the final matchup in Division 6 that we're going to take a look at here features Fairhaven and Stoneham. If some of these other games are going to be shootouts, this game is going to be a rock fight, a potential rock fight. If you love the running game, if you love option football, if you love the double wing, then your heart is going to be full after this one. This is going to be an old school fist fight in a phone booth kind of game. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on this one in terms of how it ends up?
Well, based on what Mukala said, his cousins and the Abington staff must hate this draw because Stoneham runs double wing and Fairhaven is a triple option team. So. But Fairhaven, they've only lost one game this year. Shootout to West Bridgewater, very good Division 17. Fairhaven has only scored under 41, so it was a 35-28 win over Attleboro. Justin Marks is gone. We've talked about it all year.
Who's a D1 team, by the way.
Right.
They beat a D1 team. So I think that's impressive in itself. And a good Attleboro team. I coached against them this year. That Attleboro team has some skill.
Fairhaven's really impressive this year. They lost Marks, but it's a more balanced approach. They have a few different guys that can really beat you this year, and like stylistically, you would think this would be low scoring. I actually think quite a few points are going to be scored. Fairhaven's defense isn't quite as good as it has been the last 2 years when they made it to Gillette. That offense is every bit as good. I think Fairhaven can get up into the 40s again in this one, at least the 30s. But they probably pull away in the second half, win by a couple scores.
Yeah, I think Fairhaven's it's a drive too for Stoneham in this one. This is quite the drive for them on a Friday. That might play a little factor in this, but yeah, this game might be one of those games that it might be an hour max with the way both of these teams offensively how they like to do things. But I think Fairhaven, they've been underlooked this year because of the graduation of Justin Marks and some of the guys that they graduated from the teams that the championship team and the team last year that went to Gillette. I think this team, they got the experience and they've still got some good playmakers on that team. So I'm gonna go with Fairhaven in this one. I think they're at home. They don't have to deal with the traffic on a Friday, so they should be equipped and get the win. But it'll be a very good game though.
All righty, we're now going to go over to Division 7, where we have a 1-8 matchup to start our conversation here on the Division 7 playoffs. It features Cohasset hosting Rockland. Of course, Cohasset has been on an impressive run this season. Michael Wildfire, Gus Green, really good skill group there for Cohasset. Taking on a Rockland team that is tough, physical. They win close games. Is this Rockland team good enough, Tyler Amaral, to go on the road and upset the 1 seed here in Cohasset?
I don't know if they can pull it off. I think they can keep it close. Two programs, I have familiarity with them. They're on opposite sides of the same conference. Cohasset is very impressive this year. They always have the speed and the skill, but this year they have the size, strength, physicality to match. Skippers are just going to be a little bit too much for Rockland on this one.
Yeah, Cohasset 1 seed. I think as we get to this round, I think we'll see the higher seeds moving on more. We'll probably see less upsets. I think Cohasset's gonna win this one convincingly.
All right, next up we have a Central Mass matchup, a 4-12 matchup that features the Northbridge Rams and Millbury. Ken LaChapelle in his final season, hoping to make one final run at Gillette Stadium. Is this a game that can allow him to get into the Final Four? Tyler, what are your thoughts here to start? Is Northbridge a team in Division 7 that could potentially not only get to the Final Four, but dare I say, get to the big one?
I think they could. There are a few teams here in Division 7 that could win it. Northbridge is definitely on that list. Just a few weeks ago, they beat Millbury 42-0. I would expect it to be slightly closer this time around, but Northbridge should win no problem in this one. You mentioned Coach Ken LaChapelle, legend, winning his coach in state history. His grandson, Joel LaChapelle, terrific quarterback, leads that Rams offense. They've really hit their stride here down the stretch, and they continue to roll in this one.
Yeah, Northbridge that's another team. They were close last year. They almost got there, but they just fell short. And they talking to them in I know I've said this before, but talking to them in the preseason, they know what it takes now to get over that hurdle, and they've been playing like that all year. Joel LaChapelle, he's been really great, and what better way to try to send off the great head coach Ken LaChapelle with a trip to Gillette. So Northbridge in this one.
All right, going to the other side of the bracket, we have a 2-7 matchup, which features Amesbury hosting the defending Division 7 back-to-back Division 7 champions, Uxbridge. If you're Amesbury, you want to make a run here. I'm not sure, though, that you wanted to run into Uxbridge in the second round. Of course, the defending champs slowed down a bit down the stretch, not as dominant as they were the last 2 years. But we talk about the LaChapelle family and their lineage when it comes to high school football in Massachusetts. You've got another LaChapelle in this one. Is Uxbridge good enough? Do they still have their championship mojo to be able to go on the road, Mukala, and beat this Amesbury team?
Yeah, you can't say enough about just the championship experience and being there before and knowing what it takes and knowing how to win games like this. Uxbridge definitely do have what it takes to go on the road, but Amesbury, they just I know I'm repeating myself, but this is another one of those teams. It just seems like this is their year. They've really been dominant all season long. I mean, they've been winning in dominant fashion against their opponents. I just think if they were, what better way for them to punch a ticket to the semifinals than beating the defending champs? That I think that will. They do that, that'll give them extra confidence, more confidence than they already have. So this is a great opportunity for Amesbury. Why not punch a ticket by beating the defending champs?
They still have Camden LaChapelle, so they're going to be in any game they play in the Division 7 playoffs. The defense just hasn't been as good as what it has been the last couple of years for the Spartans. I think the reign is over. I think Amesbury wins this one and advances to the semifinals.
Wow. Okay, and finally, we have a 3-6 matchup, I should say. Clinton hits the road to take on West Bridgewater. West Bridgewater team that I don't think enough people are talking about. You talk about Division 7 being wide open potentially. This is a team that could also end up at Gillette. It's a physical team. It's a well-coached team. They're tough. They're going to be tough to beat. Tyler?
It's going to be – I think you're right. West Bridgewater is sort of flying under the radar here. I mentioned earlier they're the one team that's knocked out Fairhaven this year. But – they fell early to Westwood by 5 points, and then they've really been rolling since that game. Haven't really been challenged other than that Fairhaven game, but they've got a lot of skill. Ty Holmes is a terrific player. I think this is a really good game though, because I think these might be two of the top 5 teams in Gillette, and 2 teams that I think have legitimate chances or hope of winning a state title. This Clinton team made it to the state semifinals last year, and they return a ton from that team. So I think they're going to be able to keep this one close. I think West Bridgewater has a little bit more firepower on the offensive side, and you're going to see that on the field here on Friday night. Wildcats win 35-28, something like that. But, if I'm checking scores Friday night and I see Clinton wins, I wouldn't be surprised at all. This team's really experienced, really well coached.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those back and forth games. I think this is probably going to come down to probably like the final possession or so, whoever has the ball last. But I think I'm going to go with Clinton in this one for the simple fact that they were in the semifinals last year, and there's a lot of experience and so many guys coming back from that team. I just think that's going to help them push and get them over and get this road win.
All right, let's head over to Division 8, where your first matchup is a 1-9 matchup. It features the number 1 seed, Neshoba Valley Tech, taking on Kip Academy. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. I think this is going to be a really good game. Contrasted styles, which a lot of these games are, but is Kip the type of team here, and we've seen this from them in recent years. Coach Rambert has done a great job with this program. Are they the kind of team that could surprise people as a lower seed and potentially win this game and get into the Final Four?
Kip does have a chance to win this game. They just have to defensively. They really have to tackle in this one. I think that first matchup, Neshoba really dominated the line of scrimmage in that first matchup.
Zach Duchesne's is tough. He is tough to handle.
Yeah, that's a tough back. So I think if Kip wants to win this game, they have to tackle, not give up those yards after the carry, and make sure they read those guards, because this is the double wing. What's going to come. Zach Duchesne's probably going to get 25, maybe 30 carries in this one. He's gonna get a lot of carries in this one. Kip, for them to go on the road, but maybe the second time's charm around this one. But it's gonna be a tough task. But it's another one of those things. I can't go against the home team, so I'm gonna go with Kip Academy in a close one. This game will probably be closer than the first one.
Vikings win this one, particularly in the lower divisions. When you have a really talented running back or really talented quarterback, they can swing a matchup. And the top 3 teams in this division all year, Neshoba Valley, Randolph, West Boylston, they all have that running back, that game-breaking talent that can really swing matchups in their favor. That's going to be the difference here. Zach Duchesne is too tough, and Neshoba Valley is going to go back to the semifinals.
All righty. Next up, we go to the bottom part of the bracket here, where we have a 4-5 matchup featuring Randolph hosting Hoosick Valley. Amaral, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, sort of the same thought process as the last one. Randolph, I think Randolph and Neshoba Valley are both going to win, and that would set up one hell of a semifinal matchup between these two teams that played last year in the semifinals as well. Randolph, it's not just Makai White. It starts with Makai White, but Alan Nariska has really emerged as a second option in the backfield. He's also sort of an X factor in the kicking game as well. This Randolph team has a lot of skill. Abe Cornett, multi-year, a 3-year starter at quarterback. So this Randolph team, I think they're going to be ready. They're on a mission after falling short last year to West Boylston. Blue Devils win this one.
Yeah, Makai White. That's all I can say for this one. Makai White, he's really been playing really good football all year long. I believe Randolph is gonna punch their ticket back to the semifinals, and a potential rematch from the show, but that should be very entertaining. Last year's matchup was really entertaining.
All right, next up we go to the other side of the bracket where we have a 2-7 matchup. Lee hosting Cathedral. Cathedral scoring over 60 points last week in their first round win. Can Cathedral hit the road and go out to Lee and beat this Lee team?
I think they can. Yeah, I mean this Cathedral team has a lot of skill, and they that was on full display last week against David Prouty, putting up 61 points. Very very impressive guys like DJ Desir. Just a ton of skill on this Cathedral team. But Lee, they don't get a lot of recognition. It's one of the smaller schools in the state that even offers football. They're way out in Western Mass, so east of 495. Most people don't know where it is. They've never heard of Lee. But this team's for real.
It's a one-man gang, that Lee, I'll tell you. Sorry, it's getting late.
Lee's good. Well, I remember last year they were matched up in the first month. They made the playoffs last year, and I think they have a lot of pieces back from that team. They have experience. They're sort of underrated in this part of the state. I think they're going to beat Cathedral and advance to the semifinals. They're absolutely worthy of that number 2 seed, and I think they defend home field in this one.
I've picked a few upsets already, but here's my third upset for this show. Cathedral. I think I like Cathedral's offense. This is definitely going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. They might have to win this one in a different type of way, but I think Cathedral's going to pull this one off. I think they got some guys that could step up and make some plays in this one. Lee's definitely going to give them a tough match, but I think Cathedral is going to pull this one out in a 1-score game.
All right, our final matchup is a 3-6 matchup. It features West Boylston, the defending champs, hosting Bourne.
West Boylston's going to win this one. Both teams run the double wing, so you talk about games that could be over quickly. This is one of those games. Bourne's had a very good season. Their defense has been excellent. They haven't other than they did play actually Fairhaven and West Bridgewater, so they have seen a team sort of on the level of West Boylston. It didn't end well for the Canalmen in those 2 matchups. I think West Boylston's just too big, too physical. Dominic Renzoni's a great player. Lions win this one.
Yeah, I'm going West Boylston. They're on the path to 4-peat. Renzoni, he's been a tough back all season. Expect a big game from him. They're going to pull this one out.
All right, and that'll wrap up the MIAA playoff portion of the show. And, of course, this weekend is also Knapsack Bowl weekend. There are 8 bowl games. New England Football Journal will be covering 5 of those games. And we're just going to take a look at a couple of the key matchups here for this weekend. First one is Cheshire Academy at Dexter Southfield. Dexter with a close win last week over St. Paul's. This Cheshire team is a talented team. Of course, they feature Keegan Croucher, quarterback. He's an FBS caliber quarterback. Should be a really good matchup here. The question is, and this is one of those games that could potentially be a high-scoring affair. The question is, can Dexter's defense slow down Croucher, the Ole Miss commit, and that Cheshire Academy offense? Conversely, does Cheshire have enough defensively to match up against Rory Funk and the Dexter offense?
I like Rory Funk and the guys. They won a close game against Cheshire earlier this year. I think it's going to be a close one again. Probably pretty similar scores, 29-23 the first meeting. I think it's going to be something like that again, 28-21, 28-24, something like that, but I like Dexter.
Yeah, I like Dexter too. I think Rory Funk is going to have one of those games that, put a staple on the season and, put a stamp on the quarterback position in his class. Close game, but give me Dexter Southfield.
Our next matchup we're going to take a look at features Williston Northampton hitting the road to take on Avon Old Farms. John Hooley's Winged Beavers finished the season at 9-0. Matt Bear and company have been very, very impressive, but this is going to be a stiff challenge for Avon if they want to finish the season undefeated. And by the way, I do think it's important to point out that Cheshire and Dexter will be playing in the Danny Smith Bowl, and this will be the Drew Gamir Bowl, the game between Williston and Avon Old Farms.
Yeah, give me AOF in this one. I think they have a legitimate argument as the second best team in New England after Tabor. They keep it rolling in this one, finish the season undefeated.
Yeah, give me Avon Old Farms, man. That's the team is really talented. They are loaded. Yeah, they're gonna get this one.
Next up, we have the Kevin McDonald Bowl, which I think is going to be another really good matchup. It features the Brunswick School. They come north to take on Milton Academy. Wayne McGillicuddy's squad is always well coached, ready to go. You got Ben Rolap at quarterback. Of course, they're taking on a Milton Academy team that's had a good year. They finished 6-2. Mike Mason's Mustangs feature one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the ISL and Quran McNeil. We all know about their skill group as well. This should be a fun matchup.
It'll definitely be a fun matchup. Quran McNeil, Cash Kelly, those guys. I think it's just a little bit too much skill. I like Milton in this one, and it should be a fun, high-scoring affair.
Yeah, I will be at this game. I was at the rivalry game against Nobles. Quran McNeil, they started off a little rough his first couple of offensive possessions, but then they got it going. Cash Kelly, Ben Allen, Zaire Mitchell, just way too much offensive firepower. I just think Milton Academy is going to pull this one up.
All right, and finally, we're going to take a look at the John Pappas Bowl. It's a rematch from a game that was played last week between Tabor Academy and BBNN. Tabor winning last week's matchup 42-6. I know a lot of people have scoffed at this matchup, saying, "Why are these two teams playing again?" Fortunately, it's the way that the cookie crumbles for BBNN. But if you're Mike Willie and the Knights, you have a chance to go back, watch last week's game, see what you could do differently, and try some new things this week. Can BBNN bounce back and at the very least play a more competitive game?
I'll be at this one. I think they can, of course, under the direction of Coach Willie. I think they're going to be able to, make some adjustments and come ready for this one. But again, we've talked about it all year. Tabor's the best team in New England. Just a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. They're going to finish off this season undefeated and leave their mark. One final statement that they're the best team in the region.
All right, now we're going to take a look at some of the other top matchups around New England, starting in Connecticut. We have two. First matchup we're going to take a look at features Darien at Greenwich. Greenwich coming off a tough 7-3 loss to Wilton last week. They'll be looking to bounce back against a Darien team that's been up and down this season, but certainly talented enough to go on the road and potentially upset the Cardinals.
Yeah, they have the potential to pull off the upset, but I think Greenwich rights the ship and gets back on the winning track. We don't see Greenwich lose 2 games in a row too often. I don't think that's going to be the case this time either.
Yeah, I'm going with Greenwich in this one. I think they're going to be just a little too ready for them, and they're going to pull this one out.
Of course, the next game that we're eyeballing in Connecticut features St. Joe's. They hit the road to take on Wilton. Could Wilton have a possible letdown after their win over Greenwich last week? Of course, they've beaten Greenwich now 2 years in a row, so it's not that surprising per se, but this St. Joe's team has won some big games this year. Can they win another one against a very good Wilton team?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, Wilton, coming off that physical, low-scoring affair against Greenwich, I think, they could be beaten, but I don't think they will be. I think Wilton continue that undefeated season in this one. And John, what do you think? Wilton or New Canaan? Who do you think is the best team right now in Connecticut?
New Canaan. Yeah. Wilton's had a great year. They've had a great year. And they're a team that I think could potentially win it all, but The thing is, I think when we're talking about the best team in Connecticut, UCannon has just been a wagon all year long. They've been a wagon all year long. And look, UCannon has had some close games. They've had a couple of close games this year, but I still think when it comes to public schools in Connecticut, they're the standard. All right. Next up, we're going to go up. Oh, wait. Mukala, we didn't get your pick. I'm sorry.
One second. Which one is this
St.
one?
Joe's or Wilton? Mukala's fading on us. It's getting late.
Give me St. Joe's. Give me St. No, I was looking at it. It was like, I don't got my glasses, but St. Joe's. I'm going to go St. Joe's.
Well, and St. Joe's, again, is a team that has proven through the years that they can win games like this. If you're Wilton, I mean, certainly this strengthens your case as being a top 4, top 5 team in Connecticut, obviously. But the St. Joe's team, this is a tough follow-up game, in my opinion, if you're Wilton, to go from a hard-fought 7-3 win against the defending Class LL champs to now you have to come back and take on arguably one of the 3 best teams in the a top 10 team in the state, but a team that has a resume and has proven that they can win games. Coach C knows how to get his guys ready. The cadets could be a lot for the Warriors to handle on this one. All right, let's go up to Maine, where we're going to start off with the Class A playoffs. We are in the semifinals up in Maine, and this week's top matchup features Bonnie Eagle versus Thornton Academy. This is the second time in 4 weeks that these two teams are going to be playing each other.
Yeah, Bonnie Eagle might be the second best team in Maine. I think they're definitely in the top 5. They have an argument, I think, to be the second best team. I think Thornton's just head and shoulders above everybody else in the state right now. They keep it rolling.
Yeah, luck of the draw for Bonnie Eagle. I mean, they're a really good team, but they got to play the best team. So good luck, but Thornton Academy with this one.
And, of course, your next matchup we're going to take a look at in Class A features Bangor at Portland. Portland, of course, led by Cordell Jones, the main football commit. Could Thornton Academy be on a collision course once again?
They could be. I like Bangor in a slight upset here, though. Portland beat them in the regular season. I think Bangor avenges that game and plays Thornton for the state title.
Yeah, give me Portland in this one. Give me Portland.
All right, and we're going to go over to New Hampshire now, where one of the top matchups of the weekend features Nashua South versus Bishop Girton.
This is a tough one for me. It was a close regular season matchup as well. And I think Nashua South wins. Yeah, I think Nashua South wins a close one again here.
Yeah, Nashua South, I think probably going to be a field goal.
The thing with Nashua South is I feel like they're kind of a team that people are glossing over in Division I, but I wouldn't do that. I mean, Bedford is Bedford. I still think Pinkerton could potentially be a factor, the division champs. But this Nashua South team, remember now, they beat Malden Catholic earlier this year. This is a good football team, and the Purple Panthers could surprise people. Girton is much improved under Anthony Nalen. I mean, Nate Bowen is one of the top quarterbacks in New England. He's only a junior. He's back next year. But I do think this Nashua South team, I'm not sure enough people are talking about them. And I think this is a team that could end up finding itself in the championship game here in a couple weeks in Division I. All right, I'm going to go over to Rhode Island now, where we've got a couple of key playoff matchups here. First one features Cranston West versus LaSalle. This is a rematch game that was played a couple weeks ago. LaSalle, of course, had the bye last week. Do the Rams get revenge this time around?
Yeah, I think so. I think LaSalle wins this one. Cranston West coming off a very impressive win, but I think we're yet again on a crash course for LaSalle and Hendricken and Rhode Island.
Yeah, I agree with Tyler. I think we're gonna have a rematch with LaSalle and Hendricken. I think these two teams are just destined to play each other again.
Speaking of Hendricken, they take on North Kingstown, who they beat earlier this season, but Jack Diano and his squad looking to get revenge here and potentially get back to a state title game. How does this matchup play out?
I think it's going to be a close one. North Kingstown is one of the better public school programs in Rhode Island. I think they're going to give Hendricken all they can handle, but at the end of the day, it's tough to bet against Hendricken in November.
Yeah, I'm going with Hendricken in this one. I think they're definitely trying to get another crack at LaSalle. So give me Hendricken.
Yeah, the thing with this Hendricken team, man, is one of the things that impresses me so much about the job that Keith Croft and his staff do there is it hasn't been pretty this year. They've had to win a lot of low-scoring, close games. It's not a team that's explosive on offense. It's not a team that can make a lot of big plays, but they are tough. They are physical, and they know how to win close games. That championship pedigree really matters with that program, and we've seen it at various times this year. And, of course, they had an impressive win last week over St. Ray's. All right, finally, the Division I state championship game is this weekend in Vermont. It features St. Johnsbury versus Middlebury. Should be a really good matchup between two teams that I think a lot of us at the beginning of the year kind of looked at and said, okay, they'll be in the mix. Burton bounced back. Rutland had gotten off to a really good start. Of course, Hartford was dominating the high school football landscape in Vermont until they lost last week in Division II. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. And a game that's a toss-up. It could really go either way.
Yeah, I think it could go either way too. I think Middlebury has been a little bit more consistent this year. I lean Middlebury. I don't feel super confident in that pick. I think this is a true pick'em game here in the state championship. I like Middlebury though, and I will just add this one point here. You mentioned Hartford getting upset in Division II. I think that's the biggest upset we've seen in the playoffs in all of New England was Fairhaven beating Hartford last week. That Hartford team was an absolute wagon, and then they, fell short there in the semifinals.
Yeah, 14-13. Yep. Mukala, who you got?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Middlebury in this one. Give me Middlebury for the win.
All right. Final thoughts here, gentlemen, before we wrap up this marathon of a show.
I think this is the bet. This is like NL divisional weekend. Like this, the semifinals in the Super Bowl weekend will garner a lot of the attention. But I think this is the best weekend on the high school football calendar in Massachusetts. A lot of good quarterfinal matchups, especially this year, especially when you look at divisions like Division III. So it's an incredible slate of games. I wish it was kind of more evenly spread out between Friday and Saturday, but what can you do? It's going to be a great weekend of football.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of really good games this weekend. This Friday, I should say. Some good matchups. If you are able to go, if there's one nearby, you should definitely.
We agree with Mukala. You should definitely go check it out. All right, gentlemen. Great job as always. Again, like I said, it was a long one. This might have been the longest show we've ever done. So my guess is it'll be a little shorter next week. So that at least we have that to look forward to.
Also, I want to give a shout out to all the parents that I see at these games that tell me they do watch our preview show. So I've ran into a lot of them at these games, and some of them send me messages and stuff. They watch the show and they do enjoy us. Sometimes they're not too happy when we pick against their children's teams, but it's part of the game. But they do watch and they appreciate what we're doing.
That's awesome, man. That's great to hear. And I say it all the time. This is a labor of love. And the one thing I will say, and we were talking about my back and forth over the weekend with some of the faithful over in Chestnut Hill. You can say whatever you want about me, but the bottom line is when you start talking about New England Football Journal, that's when it's on because, I really do think that me and Kevin are very lucky that we have people like you guys that work with us, that deliver such great content and make us look good. And the reality is it's a labor of love, right? I mean, I don't think people realize how much time you guys put into this during the fall and how much time we all put into it. And it's great to hear that, Mukala. It makes you feel good about what we do. And it makes you feel appreciated because, again, this isn't easy. I think a lot of people look at this and say, well, anybody can get in front of a computer and talk high school football. But to talk it to the level that these guys talk it, you have to have a passion for it. And we have a passion for it. And certainly I say it all the time. I wish we could do more. I wish we were in Vermont covering that game this weekend. I wish we were covering more of these games in different parts of the region, but we're doing the best we can. We're trying to get to as many of the states as we can. But we do appreciate the good words. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Tyler, any final thoughts? Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Some of the kids take it a little personal too when I pick against them too.
It's okay. Hey, they don't say anything to me, so good luck with that, fellas.
Nothing really beyond that. This is the best weekend of the year in Massachusetts high school football. But it is great. I love when parents, coaches come up to us, say they watch the show. It's always much appreciated, and we hope you continue to watch.
Yeah, thank you for watching, guys. We really do appreciate it. And as always, we welcome your feedback as well. I mean, let us know. And when I say feedback, I'm not saying if we're wrong, rub it in our face. You can do that too. That's fine. But we're always looking to produce better content. So, we definitely would welcome back your feedback on anything. Like I said, it's a labor of love, and the more we could do, the better. So we appreciate that. All right, gentlemen, great job as always. Appreciate you guys taking the time tonight, and looking forward to your coverage this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the High School Preview Show. For Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo, I'm John Sarianides. As always, get out there and enjoy the games.